We make about 35,000 choices a day, from what playlist to tune into in the morning, or what to have for breakfast, and even what to wear today. As you can imagine, the accumulation of such choices has a huge impact on our day, our mental health, and our overall quality of life. No matter how big or small, every choice counts. And when it comes to fashion, what we choose to put on our bodies is just as important as what we choose to put in them. My name is Seerat. I'm a sustainable designer and advocate, and I'm passionate about solving fashion's gigantic waste problem. And yes, it's a big problem. Having worked in the fashion industry since 2013, I've witnessed a growing number of fashion leaders take a more proactive approach towards embracing sustainability. However, there are still one too many whose actions continue to disregard the well-being of both people and the planet. The sheer scale of waste generated from fashion is staggering, and it highlights an urgent need for change in the way we produce and consume clothing. Let's take a look at some quick stats to put things in perspective. Today, more clothing is being produced than ever before. The fashion industry makes an estimated 100 billion garments each year, out of which 92 million tons annually end up in landfills. It is also estimated that fashion consumes 79 trillion liters of water annually and is responsible for generating 20% of the world's wastewater. These stats alone firmly place fashion as one of the leading contributors to climate change. But that's not all. Fashion exploitation goes beyond climate and environmental concerns. It also presents a significant social justice issue when it comes to labor practices and worker rights. Did you know that garment workers in developing nations can earn as low as $900 per year? Not even making a living wage while enduring long working hours in life-threatening work conditions. Yes, life-threatening. The tragic 2013 Rana Plaza disaster, where over 1,000 garment workers lost their lives due to an avoidable factory collapse, pinpoints the severity of this issue. This negative social and environmental cost of fashion, paired with its unsustainable patterns of consumption and overproduction, contribute directly to climate change, biodiversity loss, waste pollution, and social injustice worldwide. This is the true cost of fashion. We must recognize that we live in a world with finite resources, and in order to build a safer, better future, we need to adopt a slower, more thoughtful approach to our consumption and production habits. This is why embracing sustainability is so important. Sustainability is so much more than just a lifestyle. It is our social responsibility that looks to protect our natural environment as well as human and ecological health. In my experience as an industry expert, so much of this can change by individual actions stemming from the smallest choices that collectively can make a big difference. For example, what if I told you that doing something as small as reading a garment's label tag before making a purchase can help tackle fashion's waste problem? Because yes, it can. That one choice to consume a little more consciously, if made by thousands, is a great start to shaping a more sustainable future for fashion. Talk about powers in numbers, yeah? When more people make the choice to support responsible fashion, the more such choices become an industry standard. Ultimately, a collection of small choices made by both consumers and brands can cultivate the innovation and leadership required to bring about systemic change in the fashion system. Our choices have the power to drive change. So, let's make better choices. And in the spirit of using fashion as a force for good, I want to share some essential mindsets that can help you become a more proactive consumer. Because let's face it, people are not going to stop shopping, but they can be smart about how they shop. As a fashion enthusiast myself, I enjoy shopping too, but over the years, I've learned to shop slowly and intentionally. It took me a while, but I realized that my clothing choices can either contribute to a more corrupt system or to one that can create value. I believe a lot of us are still underestimating the decision-making powers that we have as consumers to shape the fashion industry for the better. And this power resides in our ability to choose better materials, better garments, and better brands. A mantra that I keep in mind anytime I have to make a new purchase comes from one of my favorite designers, Vivienne Westwood, who said, "Buy less, choose well, and make it last." And this pretty much beautifully summarizes what it takes to be a conscious and proactive consumer. To buy less is centered around the idea of resisting the temptation to buy more than what we need. The throwaway culture promoted by fast fashion has progressively worsened over the years. It's encouraged consumers to view clothing as something disposable and easily replaceable. The more mindlessly we buy clothes, the less we wear them and the quicker we throw them away. At present, it's estimated that many items are worn only 7 to 10 times before being tossed out. So, by resisting the urge to constantly shop mindlessly and making intentional purchases focused on quality and longevity, we can break free from the cycle of overconsumption. Another important aspect to consider while shopping is to choose well-made products. They say, if a piece of clothing costs less than your cup of coffee, walk away. Now, there are many factors that you can take into consideration when making a responsible purchase, but the easiest and most impactful one, in my opinion, is factoring in the material composition. Now, I would encourage you to think about a garment's end of life and how easy or difficult it would be to recycle. Garments made from natural fibers have a better chance of being properly recycled and recirculated within the fashion system. And even if they do end up going to landfills, at least we know that they're biodegradable. Unlike synthetic fibers, which are derived from fossil fuels and are comparable to plastics, they not only contribute to microfiber plastic pollution in our oceans, but will also likely sit in landfills for up to 200 years before they fully decompose. So, in the context of slow fashion, to choose well means to prioritize timeless, high-quality styles over cheaply made, fleeting trends. And lastly, I can't stress enough how important it is to take better care of your clothes in order to make them last. Once you take a considered approach to what you buy, you naturally develop a deeper appreciation for your clothes, which encourages you to cherish them for longer. Taking care of your clothes then becomes an act of love. For example, my mom still has a shawl that was passed down to her from my grandma. This shawl has endured the years due to the care and attention it received. The longevity of the shawl relied on how well it was looked after. So, instead of throwing something away from your wardrobe, get creative, get crafty, and have fun with reinventing fashion. And if you absolutely have to part ways with your clothing, consider reselling or donating. And even check with your brands to see if they have any garment take-back programs. Our goal as conscious consumers should be to keep wearable clothing in circulation for longer. Making your garments last is the best way to minimize unnecessary waste. Even if a portion of our belongings get this treatment, it would make a world of a difference. Personally, for me, embracing the mindset of buy less, choose well, make it last has made a huge impact on my purchasing habits and the relationship I have with my clothes. Once I better understand where my clothes come from, what they're made of, and the people who made them, and the story behind why they were made, I tend to appreciate, value, and take better care of my clothes. All of this sounds pretty doable, right? But there is still so much we need to be wary of. Now, in the past few years, it's been amazing to see the increased support for sustainable fashion. We're now seeing circularity seeping into supply chains, in manufacturing, and across marketing, media, and beyond. However, as sustainability grows as a selling point, misinformation and greenwashing have become very prevalent in the fashion industry. And that is something we should watch out for. At its core, greenwashing is all about misdirection. It is a deceptive practice of making brands appear more sustainable than they truly are. For example, brands will market a small range of their products as conscious in the hope to create a more greener image for the whole company. There are others that exaggerate their numbers and deceive consumers only to sound more promising. These superficial gestures don't compensate for their waste-generating production processes. And this is where brand transparency comes into play. You see, transparency underpins sustainability. Without this, a fair fashion industry would not be possible. Just as consumers have an important role to make informed purchases, brands too have a duty to champion circular culture and redirect consumers towards responsible consumption habits. In this way, brands play a pivotal part in tackling greenwashing. By being transparent about their inner workings, particularly in relation to their supply chain and business practices and their associated impacts on people and planet, brands can make it easier for consumers to make responsible choices. For example, I work for a social impact fashion business on a mission to end fashion waste. We do so by rescuing pre-consumer waste, excess inventory surplus, and end-of-roll fabrics and reuse them into creating responsible clothing with the lowest possible environmental footprint. As a business, we prioritize transparency at every stage. We proactively share accessible insights about our impact, our supply chain, our partners, our environmental savings from our material use, and even educate consumers about best clothing care practices along the way. In this way, we are doing our part to contribute to a circular fashion future. Without transparency like this, there would be a lack of visibility, which will then allow exploitation to thrive, while concealing the people responsible and capable of addressing these issues. So, as consumers, next time you come across a brand that claims to be sustainable, look beyond the surface and consider the broader sustainability efforts of the brand. Look for alignment between the brand's core values and their sustainability goals. Verify whether their claims are supported by concrete data and third-party verification. Pay attention to the programs, charities, and initiatives the brand supports, as well as their adherence to the ESG guidelines. Ultimately, consumers and brands working together will accelerate a positive shift to a fashion industry that prioritizes people and planet. And this shift starts with you. It starts with your choices, your actions, and your commitment to creating a more sustainable future. Imagine a world where responsible fashion is not just a niche trend, but a new norm. The world where our engagement with fashion goes beyond superficiality and embraces ethical values. So I leave you with this question. What choice will you make? Will you choose to be a catalyst for change and a champion for conscious fashion? Because the impact of your choice will be profound. Together, let's create a future where fashion and sustainability coexist harmoniously and where our choices reflect the commitment to a better world.